Hi everyone, this is Balázs from RacingBrick. Last time we explored the build process of the LEGO Technic 42232 Koenigsegg Sadair Spear, including the gearbox, the new parts, the suspension and all the engineering hidden beneath the bodywork. Today it's time to focus on the finished model. We'll compare it with the real car, test all the functions, see how it stacks up against the previous Technic Ultimate cars, and of course I share my final verdict. Let's start with the appearance. About a week ago, I had the opportunity to see the actual Sadair Spear at the Koenigsegg headquarters in Sweden, and the experience definitely added a lot to my perspective on this model. The real car is incredibly low, very wide, and full of complex aerodynamic surfaces. It's one of those vehicles that look much more dramatic in person than it does in photos. I think the LEGO designer Kasper Hansen managed to capture that character pretty well. The proportions are great, the roofline sits low, the rear wing dominates the silhouette, and from almost every angle the model is instantly recognizable as a Koenigsegg. The front end has probably generated most discussion since the reveal because of the printed headlights. Personally, especially after seeing the real car up close, I think they made the correct compromise here. The real car leaves very little room above the front wheels, and the LEGO model has the same limitation. If I remove the wheel arch, you can see there's barely any space available. A more complex brick-built solution would have required a higher front section and would have affected the proportions. We've already seen with the McLaren P1 that brick-built headlights don't automatically guarantee a better result. In fact, they were one of the most criticized aspects of that model. Here, the printed headlights look sharp, they capture the shape of the originals well, and from a normal viewing distance they work fine. We even get the vents printed above them. Funnily enough, many people were surprised that the set has no stickers at all. In reality, the last 1/8 scale Technic Ultimate car that used stickers was the Chiron back in 2018. Every Ultimate car since then has relied entirely on printed elements. The side profile is probably my favorite angle of the car. The cabin proportions look right, the wheels feel correctly sized this time, and while the wheel gap is still larger than on the real vehicle, that's simply the price you pay for having working suspension on a LEGO model. The black surfaces are broken up by dark tan and dark orange accents, and this light bluish grey piece isn't here by accident. It represents the side indicator found on the real car. Speaking of colors, many people expected LEGO to use the launch specification shown at the reveal of the Sadair Spear. During the presentations, we learned that several color options were explored throughout development. Some combinations were presented by the designer on prototypes and development models, but at the end both companies agreed on the final black version. After seeing it next to the life-size car, I think they made a pretty good choice. I don't think any of LEGO's brown shades would have worked particularly well at this scale. The black bodywork emphasizes the shape of the car, while the orange and tan accents highlight the details. The tan pieces could perhaps have been gold, although that might have clashed with the dark orange interior. The rear of the car looks great. The huge wing immediately draws your attention, while the diffuser, exhaust area and cooling openings captures the character of the real vehicle well. If we remove the roof, we can take a look at the detailed interior. The seats look good, although these side wings are perhaps a bit too wide. We get printed gauges, printed controls on the center console and a fixed wiper. The windscreen frame really benefits from that central support since the removable roof doesn't contribute much structural strength and mainly adds weight to the assembly. Speaking of the removable roof, LEGO was actually quite lucky with the model choice. Most Koenigsegg cars are designed very practically, allowing the removable roof panel to be stored in the front compartment. As you can see, there's absolutely no space for that in the Sadair Spear, so the LEGO model doesn't need to replicate that feature. People were also asking about these unusually placed rims. If you look at the real car, you can see the vents that these elements are designed to represent. The engine compartment also contains a surprising amount of authentic detail beyond the engine itself and the triplex suspension. The massive exhaust immediately stands out, but there are plenty of other recognizable features hidden here as well. And since we already have the rear section open, let's talk about the headline feature of the set, Ghost Mode. Some of you asked about it after my previous video, so here's how it works on the real car. At the press of a button, the built-in hydraulic system simultaneously opens the doors, front hood and rear clamshell, while the mirrors fold outward as well. Does it serve a practical purpose? Not really, but it probably is the coolest way imaginable to show off your Koenigsegg. On the LEGO version, Ghost Mode is activated by lifting the rear section. The linkages hidden inside the car open both doors, raise the front hood, and the mirrors fold out as the doors move. During the reveal event, Kasper explained that Ghost Mode wasn't even part of the original concept. The gearbox and chassis came first, the doors were added later, and only after that did he begin experimenting with ghost mode. The engine cover can stay up if you pull these beams slightly, and some functions also work independently, but not all. If the engine cover is up, everything has to remain open. If the engine cover is closed, you can open and close the hood and doors separately. The mechanism works well, although there is some visible slack in the linkage. I can open the doors fully separately, but when using ghost mode they usually don't reach the very top position, especially if I open the cover slowly. We will see how this system works after a few months on the shelf. The folding mirrors remain my favorite detail. It's a relatively small feature, but it adds a huge amount of realism. Interestingly, one of the Koenigsegg engineers involved in the LEGO development even mentioned that the mirrors were his favorite detail on the entire model. Now let's check the suspension. The real Sadair Spear uses Koenigsegg's famous Triplex suspension system, and LEGO developed multiple new elements specifically to recreate it. We get new wishbones, new shock absorbers and new wheel hubs, all working together to make the system possible. The suspension is functional, although the car sits so low that there's not a huge amount of travel available. There are also some compromises that I already mentioned in part 1. The anti-roll bar isn't functional because of the joint in the middle. I don't think it would have any real functionality at this scale, so I don't mind it being here just for show. The upper wishbones also flex slightly under load, pushing this half bush outward. During the reveal event, the Technic team explained that this was a deliberate compromise. A stiffer material reduced the flex but also increased the risk of breakage, so LEGO ultimately chose the softer solution. Personally, I would have preferred a permanent gap rather than seeing parts move under load, but in practice it doesn't affect the functionality of the model. The steering is functional as well, although there is no hand-of-God control, just like on the previous Ultimate cars. As you can see, the steering wheel isn't perfectly centered when the wheels are straight. Apparently, this isn't a priority feature for most customers, as it rarely appears in larger Technic sets. Another one of my pet peeves is having the correct front and rear wheel sizes, especially on LEGO's 1/8 scale Formula 1 cars. The real Koenigsegg does use larger rear wheels than front wheels, but at 1/8 scale the difference would only be about 4 mm. Compared to the wheel size compromises we've seen on some Formula 1 models, this one is not worth complaining about, we can live with it. Now let's talk about the gearbox. If you watched my previous Ultimate car reviews, then you will know that over the years I've become increasingly skeptical about these huge transmissions. They are usually difficult to demonstrate, difficult to understand, and after the build is finished most owners probably never interact with them again. This set actually changed my mind. I think this is easily the best gearbox we've seen in a Technic Ultimate car. The shifting is smooth, the drivetrain is efficient, the layout is clear, it even loosely reflects the philosophy behind Koenigsegg's unique lightspeed transmission, and for the first time we have a clear gear indicator that lets you immediately see what's happening. I'm sure not many people will regularly push the car around just to watch the engine speed change, but thanks to the indicator and the clever layout, this gearbox feels like much more than a gimmick designed to increase the gear count. And in my testing, it worked remarkably reliably. So where does this leave the Koenigsegg compared to the previous Ultimate cars? The Porsche started the series, but today its age is clearly visible. The Chiron expanded the engineering and introduced the memorable marriage process. The Sián became my previous favorite thanks to its additional mechanical functions beyond the gearbox and suspension. The Daytona and P1 refined the bodywork, but neither introduced major new mechanical innovations. The Koenigsegg feels like the first model in years that successfully balances display quality and genuine Technic functionality. But that leads to a bigger question about the future of this series. For years, these models have gradually become more display-oriented, and many fans have worried that Technic might be losing part of its identity. This Koenigsegg gives me the hope that LEGO understands those concerns. The bodywork is still clean, there are a lot of system elements used for fine details, yet the engineering remains front and center. So, is the Koenigsegg perfect? No. There are still gaps and mismatched pieces here and there. The steering alignment could be better, the wishbones flex more than I expected, and people will probably continue debating the headlights. And still on the aesthetic side, we have the recurring complaint about the visible blue pins and the internal colors, but this color coding is still part of the LEGO Technic DNA. In the old days, Technic wasn't really about looks, it was all about functionality. Nowadays, Technic is used to build large-scale display sets, so there is a demand from customers for them to look, well, less like Technic. The challenge for LEGO will be finding the right balance. If these models become too focused on appearance, then sooner or later people will start asking why they are called Technic in the first place. At the same time, LEGO doesn't exist in a vacuum. there are plenty of competitors offering monochrome interiors, color meshed pins and other solutions that some fans would prefer at this scale. It will be interesting to see where LEGO takes the Ultimate Series next, although that's probably a discussion for another video. My previous favorite in this lineup was the Lamborghini Sián. Today, however, I think we have a new leader. For me, the Koenigsegg Sadair Spear takes the #1 spot. Despite being a massive licensed display model, it feels more like a true Technic set than many of its predecessors. Is it worth €450 or dollars? That was also the launch price of the McLaren P1 2 years ago, and it's currently the price of the Ferrari Daytona as well. If I had to choose one model from that group, I would pick the Koenigsegg without hesitation. And there are also other sets in this price range that offer far less actual Technic functionality. That said, €450 is still a lot of money for a display model, so I would definitely wait for discounts. Both the Daytona and the P1 can regularly be found with discounts of 30% or even more. So folks, let me know what you think about the Koenigsegg Sadair Spear in the comments below. Do you agree with my ranking, or would another ultimate car still take the top position? Let's talk about it in the comments section. If you enjoyed this video, then please give it a thumbs up and don't forget to subscribe with notifications, as more exciting LEGO videos are coming soon. See you next time, bye bye.